All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Davidson. I'm the Music and Memory Program Coordinator here at CAHF. You are on the 1 o'clock webinar today, Understanding the UC Davis QAPI Tool. A couple housekeeping things before we begin. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a drop-down that says Handouts. If you would like the slides from today's webinar, that's where they're located. It's a PDF copy that you can save or print out. And also, at the end of this webinar, you will be able to access the slides as well as a recording of the webinar on the CAHF Music and Memory Project website. So both of those things will be on the website, and the handouts are here today for you to access. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to our presenter today. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Bakurjian with the UC Davis research team. And Deb, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. Welcome, everybody. I'm so delighted to have you on the call today. I did want to say that we're going to do things just a little differently than we've done in the past. So before we get started, I'd like to find out how many of you have been on a QAPI webinar prior to today. If you could just enter yes on your in the chat box. It's on the right-hand side of your computer screen. Just enter yes there, just so we can get an idea, and that will help me to see how much time I need to spend on the first part of this webinar. So over on the right-hand side in the chat bar, if you've been on a QAPI webinar in the past, just put yes in that chat bar. Amanda, are we getting any response there?
We have, take a look. We do have some answers coming in. I just want to make sure that I get them all. Okay, so we so far have four people that have responded, three of which say yes, one of which says no.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like that most people have not. So for those of you who've been on the QAPI webinar in the past, I am going to do a quick review of part one, but we're going to spend most of our time really focusing on module 2. So for those of you who've been on before, a little bit of patience while we go through something that you've probably seen before. Okay, Amanda, do I have control now?
I believe you should, yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about the QAPI tool workbook overall. We're going to talk about navigating where to start. In the past, we've looked at modules 1 through 3, but we're going to today look at module 1 and spend the rest of the time focused on module 2. Just as an overview here of the research component of this project, in the first 2 years, we randomized all nursing homes that participated into a control and intervention group, with the intervention group getting the QAPI tool and the control group doing usual practices. In phase 3, all of the nursing homes in phase 3 are going to get the QAPI tool. So there is not going to be any intervention and control group. Hopefully everybody who's on the call has the QAPI tool now. We're also going to be sending it out fairly soon to all of the phase 1 folks as well. So the information that we need from the research perspective is related to getting survey data. You get those surveys every quarter. We really want to make sure that you fill those surveys out and get those back to us, even if you have not filled out any of them in the past. It's never too late to start. So we would like you to make sure that you fill out those surveys. It's so important to us. So the QAPI workbook is a tool for leadership to help guide the QAPI process and to develop your QAPI program. Everything that we have in the QAPI tool is tailored towards music and memory using a QAPI approach, and it meets all of the requirements from CMS for survey and certification related to QAPI. We don't expect that you're going to be able to develop a QAPI program in, a month, but the tool will help accelerate your development of the program, or if you've already got a program started, the tool will help you to make it more comprehensive. We've organized the tool according to the 12 QAPI steps that are available in QAPI at a glance. That also coincides with the HSAG QAPI Companion. So we want you to be familiar with those two tools. Both are available online, and they're also available as resources in what we sent you. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I want to make sure that you mute your phones. Okay. So there are 3 modules that are in the QAPI tool workbook. We're going to go briefly over Module 1 and then spend most of the time on Module 2. Module 1 really looks at that system-wide comprehensive program, whereas Module 2 and 3 are really focused on the performance improvement projects. So we'll explain that more as we go along, but again, we'll focus on Module 2 primarily during this afternoon's session. Module 1 are steps 1 through 8 in the QAPI QAPI at a glance program. You can see that Module 1 really focuses on developing the overall program. Modules 2 and 3 are identical in structure, as you can see here, but the content is different. I'll explain more about that in just a moment. Each of our modules include a brief overview of each of the QAPI steps. It has a listing of the HSAG companion action steps, those specific actions that are really important for you to take in order to accomplish that particular process. We are providing you with several worksheets. These are fillable forms, and in those worksheets, they function as a template. So you can type right into them. And that's going to be very useful because once you have filled the forms out, each of these worksheets, that's essentially all of the documentation that you're going to need to show that you have developed a QAPI program. There's several appendices as well, and some of you will use those and some will not, and that's fine. There are hyperlinks for easy navigation, although I will tell you that today we're going to be showing a Word version because it's easier, it's got more clarity over the screen for whatever reason, and those hyperlinks are not going to work. But your modules that you get have hyperlinks that do function. So some tips that will help you is to familiarize yourself with QAPI at a glance and the HSAG QAPI Companion. Review our toolbook just from beginning to end, just scroll through it just to see. Not all of you will need all of the steps because some of these steps may be things that you've already accomplished. But you should go through and make sure that you have something there that represents that particular step, because what we have in our toolbook is what CMS says is a comprehensive QAPI program that all of you are required to start and show evidence of this November. And again, Module 1, System-Wide Comprehensive Program Development. Modules 2 and 3 are performance improvement projects that are very focused. Any questions so far? If you have questions as we go along, if you want to type those questions into the chat bar on the right, Amanda will be able to answer those. Let me know what the questions are, and we can answer them as we go. But every so often, I'll just stop and ask if there are questions. Any questions at this point in time about what we've covered so far? Amanda, any questions?
I don't see that we have any yet.
All right, we'll move on, and then if any questions pop up, just let me know. So very quickly, I want to go through Module 1, Steps 1 through 8, which is really establishing this system-wide comprehensive QAPI program. I'm going to really focus in on the steps that are really important, critical for you to be successful in QAPI. And this is any QAPI program. This process you can use for any for your overall QAPI program and anything related to any of the performance improvement topics that you want to focus on. As I say, our tool is geared towards music and memory, but it's really just lays out the process that you can use in general. These are the 8 steps that are in this section. And this is what typically you're going to see in each of the QAPI steps in all 3 of the modules. It starts with a statement that just says, for this one, QAPI step 1 focuses on the importance of the role of leadership in QAPI. Then it gives you some references to go to your QAPI at a glance and also the HSAG companion. Those are the pages that are related to QAPI step 1, leadership, responsibility, and accountability. We give you then in the box, a very quick overview out of the HSAG QAPI companion that simply talks about what the step is about and the specific action steps. And again, you will see this same look in every module, in every one of the QAPI steps throughout the modules. In this particular step, the action steps are related to developing a steering committee that helps to provide leadership for QAPI, provide resources for your QAPI team, including equipment and training, establishing a climate of open communication and respect. And we can't emphasize enough how important that communication is back and forth. And then understanding your own nursing home's current culture, how your current culture is going to promote improving the processes in your nursing home. Then you'll see a few sentences about what the responsibilities are, or what the issues are, what needs to be done related to that particular step. And then you'll see some text in red. Now all of this red text normally would be in your modules that you get are hyperlinks. So you would be able to click onto one of these hyperlinks and it will take you to that particular place in your workbook. So if I clicked on worksheet 3, it would take me to worksheet 3, which is here. Guidelines for governance and leadership, and this is just an excerpt that we're going to show you. I would be able to look at this worksheet. The worksheet is a template. All of our worksheets are templates that are to help you with your process. So for example, how QAPI is integrated into the responsibilities and accountabilities of top-level management. Then our example written here on the left-hand side in this area here, in the left, would be an example of an appropriate thing that you could write. You can either use what we have written by copy and pasting it over on the right side, modifying it to make it specific to your nursing home, or you can write your own text. Wherever it says insert text here, you can start to type right in it. It will keep your text. You can correct your text. You can go back later and change the text. But once you are done, you now have documentation for having completed this piece of leadership responsibility and accountability. And all of the worksheets and the QAPI step work the same way. At the end of this page, there's a hyperlink that would take you back to where you were. This is QAPI Step 2, developing a deliberate approach to teamwork. And this particular step really tells you about how to help your team to be very effective. And again, it's one of these steps that's really critically important to the success of your project. We know that when teamwork breaks down, that projects tend to stall. So how you communicate together, when do you meet, who is responsible for what particular thing, and that's what this worksheet would help you to do. QAPI Step 3 is about assessing your own nursing home with where you are with QAPI. We know that you all have a quality assessment and assurance program already, a QAA committee that meets. Many nursing homes have told us how they integrate their QAPI in with that committee meeting. But you can't do QAA in the old way that you've always used to do it, which is retrospectively looking back at what we've accomplished. Instead, QAPI is an iterative, ongoing, and prospective process where you're identifying problems and actively seeking solutions to them, measuring, developing interventions, measuring how you do. And we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. QAPI Step 4 is looking at your organization's guiding principles, and this is primarily mission and vision, and making sure that everybody in your nursing home knows what your mission and your vision is, and that how you then take that and develop a purpose statement for your QAPI program, establish some guiding principles. The worksheets here, if you fill them all out, will satisfy QAPI Step 4. Here's one of those worksheets. So this one is scope of your QAPI project. So we're talking about music and memory, and what we're interested in is how are we going to scope this project and have it align with our mission and vision of our nursing home. Part of that might be about looking at barriers. So in this one, you'll see at the very top who's going to be participating in this project. And what we've tried to show you is that sometimes there are different units. Some nursing homes are very small, some of them are much larger, some of them have specialized units, as you can see here. You might have a locked or secured psychiatric or dementia unit. So you would be able to insert those specific units that you think are going to be really instrumental in the success of your QAPI program, and in this case, music and memory. So almost we can tell you with what we've done to date that activities are very important in the success of music and memory. We do have some nursing homes with dementia units or a specialized psych unit. Maintenance sometimes gets involved as far as the equipment, and you would just put in whatever departments over and above nursing that is going to be involved in this process. And then thinking about what kind of barriers you might have or anticipate. Activities, for example, may have had some issues and problems in communication with the CNAs in the past. That's just an example of a type of barrier that you might have. You might have structural barriers, locations in 2 different buildings, various kinds of things. But it's important that you understand and anticipate what those barriers might be so you can start to think about solutions. And so this worksheet just takes you, there's several steps in it, and it just takes you down through that worksheet to consider all of the issues that you might encounter. Step 5 is developing your own QAPI plan. This is a written QAPI plan. There are several example plans that are available online. We also provide an example of a QAPI plan. The easiest thing to do is to look to see what others have done and then adapt it for yourself. So this QAPI step 5 is about developing that plan. 6 is about a QAPI awareness campaign, and this really has to do with transparency. I often tell the story about when I was doing some work for Lumetra, who was the QIO for the state of California for a number of years. We went out and we visited several nursing homes, and I was so impressed with one nursing home where there was a big poster out in the very in the lobby that this poster was basically told everybody that walked in the front door, we are conducting a performance improvement project on pressure ulcers. We've had a problem in the past. We're working very hard. If you are a visitor, we want you to know that this is an area of focus. If you have a loved one who has a pressure ulcer or a risk for a pressure ulcer, please let us know about it. I just thought that was an incredibly bold and innovative way to approach this, and that nursing home reduced their pressure ulcers by over half by the time they were done with that project, and people were feeling so good about the work that they were doing. So you want to let people know that you're working on quality in your nursing home. 7 is develop a strategy for collecting and using the data, and this is incredibly important. If you don't understand where you're going to get information, how you're going to collect it and document it and measure change, then it's going to be a problem for you. So this particular step is really, really critical, that you understand where data comes from in your nursing home. One of the most obvious places is that the MDS data that you collect on every single resident every month. So that's going to tell you some information about residents, but it's not necessarily going to tell you about your own internal processes, which means that you may have to develop data collection tools. I think most nursing homes have developed audit sheets or check sheets that you use to go through charts, to check off whether people have had their flu vaccines. All of those are ways that you collect data, and that's really important. So the worksheets in here help you to, again, let me just remind everybody to be sure that you put your phones on mute. These worksheets, filling out these worksheets, are going to help you to make sure that you are documenting and recognizing all the places that you would collect data from, and that will help you when it comes down to collecting the data. And QAPI Step 8 is identifying your gaps and opportunities, and I'm not going to say anything more about this because this is also an overlap step that we're going to talk about in just a minute when we think about the QAPI tool, QAPI Module 2. So Module 1 is establishing a system-wide comprehensive QAPI program. This is a requirement from CMS. You will actually be, I can tell you that the surveyors have all been trained on this now. They're using HSAG Companion, they're using QAPI at a glance. They're going to be looking to see whether you've got this. So our tool that we've developed is it should help you in accelerating the process of getting that together so that when survey comes, you can show that to them. But more importantly, that you will have developed a system-wide program to help you with in working on quality improvement. So any questions about Module 1? We're going to spend the rest of the time talking about Module 2, but if you have any questions about Module 1, this is a really good time to put your questions into that chat box. And we're going to go ahead and switch, Amanda, to the other document.
Okay.
And while Amanda is switching to the other document, it's not necessarily required of you that you develop your QAPI program in any particular order. The work that was done to put the steps together is one logical way to do it, but that's not the only way it can be done. What CMS says is that to one extent or another, all of those steps are important in an overall comprehensive program. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it in the exact order that they say that. I've had some nursing homes say that, gee, we've already got a mission and a vision, so that's a nice place for us to start. Or we want to put our QAPI plan together first and then start there. So what my experience has been is that different people, different nursing homes start in different places, work on different areas, but ultimately you want to have something related to each one of those QAPI steps. Okay, do I have the control again, Amanda?
Yes, you do.
And did we have any questions?
We do not have any questions at this time.
All right. Okay, so this is the QAPI guide that you have, Module 2. We are going to go through this kind of in order. I'm not going to, this is a Word document, so we're not going to have the hyperlinks that work. But I'm going to go through it so that everybody understands each one of the pages and knows how to kind of navigate around it. So this is the table of contents, and you can see that there's an introduction. The QAPI step 8 is here, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then that's followed by all these worksheets. Those worksheets are the how to do the various things. And then at the end, there are some appendices. So the appendices are things that are reference documents. It'll often tell you how to do something or a different kind of an example. So you'll be able to see that when you go into the appendices. And again, our recommendation is that you go through it. Just scroll through and just take a look and see what everything is. Try the navigation out, making sure that you can go from one to another. And that will really help you as you start to do the work. I'm going to go here to this introduction. The introduction really just talks about what is QAPI. We all kind of, I think, know that, but it's just a reminder that it's not only quality assurance, that look back to how we've done and are we meeting the minimum standard. That's what quality assurance is. But it's also about performance improvement. Okay, we know where our baseline is. How do we get better? And that's what the performance improvement part is about. Module 2 is really designed, again, to use with QAPI at a glance and HSAG Companion. And it's really about helping you to focus in on the performance improvement project. So the first module was about developing a whole program that will lead your projects. And now we're going to focus in on performance improvement projects. And again, as I said earlier, we have this overlap in QAPI Step 8, because it's at QAPI Step 8 that the performance improvement projects get identified and we start to say, okay, who's going to work on this particular project? So if we were to think of music and memory as an intervention or a project that we might measure to see how well we do, then this is a perfect time then to say, we need to identify where our gaps and opportunities are and identify that music and memory is an opportunity to improve a problem area. Let's just say, for instance, that behaviors have been a problem. We have multiple residents who have behavioral challenges, and we've tried various things, and they have worked sometimes, but not all the time, and not all for all of our residents. So now we're going to try music and memory, and we're going to see, does this program work? Who does it work for? Because likely it's not going to work for every single resident, right? But we're going to see, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do it, how we're going to make it systematic, how we're going to measure improvement, all of those kinds of things. That all kind of happens starting here at QAPI Step 8. QAPI Step 8 focuses on the importance of identifying your gaps. Now, again, we've already said we're going to use music and memory, but there may be other things in your nursing home that you also want to work on. It could be you have a problem with pressure ulcers. We've talked about that. It's a common problem in nursing homes. So maybe that's part of where your problem area is. So in addition to having a performance improvement project related to music and memory, you may also want to develop one on pressure ulcers, or maybe urinary incontinence. There could be a variety of different things. But based on the resources that you have, you want to make sure that you can resource each one of those projects in a way to ensure that they're successful. Here in QAPI Step 8, we look at the action steps. So it says review information to determine if gaps or patterns exist in your systems of care. Discuss emerging themes with residents and caregivers. And again, I think that one of the things that might be really helpful to you is at one of your meetings, you start to say, where are we getting information that things are not going well? And, you know, there's a variety of different places where you can do that. Sometimes it comes from your resident council. Sometimes it comes from a complaint. Sometimes it comes from a CNA or from a nurse or from somebody in activities or in maintenance or your nursing home administrator or DON making their rounds. So it can come from multiple different places. You are recognizing that there is a problem, and working on it is almost half the battle. So here are we've listed some ideas for you as it pertains to dementia care, because the focus of this project, Music and Memory, is about improving the care of residents with dementia. So you can see on this list, we've given you all kinds of things that might help you to identify whether dementia care is a problem. And this is just an example of the kind of brainstorming that you can do in your own facility that will help you. And just because you identify a problem doesn't mean 100% that it is an ongoing problem. So don't, don't worry that, oh my gosh, we've listed 25 things. That doesn't, you have to go through and make sure that they really are a problem. Sometimes they are not. So this would have worksheet 11, identifying the gaps, and a table for a reference. I'm going to go down to 11A. I'm just not going to do this every time, but I'm going to go down to 11A, which is up higher than this. And again, your hyperlinks will work. Mine are not working because I extracted this to Word so we could see it more clearly. But just to give you an idea, as you're working on that, here's 11A. And your first statement is review information to determine if gaps or patterns exist. We've given you some examples about what you could write. So you could copy this whole thing, paste it over here in the intertext here, or you can free text in the intertext here. You can go to our table 4A for some additional examples. You go on to say, discuss any emerging themes with residents and caregivers. Here's an example. Assign a steering committee member and the PIP team lead to attend resident or family council to discuss dementia care practices. Talk with nursing staff about resident assessments to determine if they have ideas for improvement. Share that feedback with the steering committee and then develop a plan. So again, this is the kind of thing that you could copy and paste what we've written or any part of what we've written, or develop your own text that you would enter on this right side, because remember, this right side is ultimately going to be your plan. The third step here is notice what things your organization is doing well in this identified area. So you might say that, well, we've already started to reduce antipsychotic rates. Well, that's really good. You want to document that. Our residents and our families are very satisfied with the care that they're getting here. You want to document that. And the fourth step here is set priorities for improvement. So once you've identified some issues that you want to think are important to work on, and you've established those things that you're already doing well, now you can set the priorities about what are the specific things that you want to focus on as the first part of your performance improvement project. In this case, an example that we gave you was all resident assessments and care plans for music and memory will be completed in a timely manner prior to implementing the music and memory project. So part of what you have to do is assess the residents and see what their need is, see what kind of music they like, all of those kinds of things, whether they're appropriate for this particular program. Right here down at the bottom, you can see QAPI Step 8, identify your, return to that step or go to a different worksheet. So when you're working with your projects at home, in your nursing home, those hyperlinks will work. So let's go down now to QAPI Step 9. This is prioritizing your opportunities and chartering your PIPs. Now, say you had a great meeting and you identified 4 things that you would like to work on in your nursing home. Prioritizing them is really an important piece so that you can figure out how you're going to provide the resources for each of them. And most of the time, most nursing homes cannot really fully resource multiple projects unless they have different staff involved, because we already know you're already doing a number of things like monitoring your fall, keeping track of your pressure ulcers and skin tears, infection rates and all of those. There's a bunch of things that you're already doing that really should be part of your QAPI program. But you may want to focus on one other thing that you want to really enhance, and this is an opportunity to do that. The worksheets allow you to actually take step by step in an organized fashion to go through the action steps. So for prioritizing opportunities and chartering PIPs, the action steps are prioritize opportunities for more intensive improvement work. Consider which problems will become the focus of a PIP. And remember, not every improvement effort is a whole performance improvement project. Some things are simple to resolve. They're low-hanging fruit. They don't take 10 people to do it. There's not a lot of documentation. So that's part of what you're thinking about when you're going through this process. If you need to have a performance improvement team, this is the step in which you're going to address and focus on that. The PIP team should then develop a timeline, indicate what their budget and resource needs are. And I really want to speak to this issue about resource needs, because it's not just about money that would help you to buy some supplies. It's about making sure that there are people who can be part of the team to meet together. That lead CNA that's going to be responsible, or it's going to be a champion for that project. And if we're talking music and memory, you know, having a CNA, having a charge nurse, having somebody from activities, maybe somebody from social services, all of those people coming together and really working on this project can make your project more successful. And then there's a goal setting worksheet to help you establish appropriate goals as part of this as well. So you can see that there is some work in putting this PIP team together. And the chartering of PIPs means that the leadership says, we're going to bring these people together. We're going to resource you so that you can meet on a regular basis. We are going to provide you with information that you may need that doesn't, you know, isn't available to you on a daily basis, and therefore we want you to do this work, and we expect you to develop a timeline and report back to us on your progress. And the reason why PIPs get chartered is to make sure that there's that communication with leadership. That's just a critically important piece of what needs to happen. Okay, let's go to QAPI step 10. Plan, conduct, and document the PIP. So now this is where the PIP, or the Performance Improvement Project team, really starts getting their work together. You can see now there are 7 steps associated with this particular QAPI step. So a number of things that have to happen. What information does the PIP need? What is the timeline that we just talked about? How is that communicated to the steering committee? Identify and requesting any needed supplies or equipment. So, for example, in music and memory, many nursing homes did not have good storage for the music and memory pieces, you know, the iPods and chargers and that sort of thing. So something that they needed from leadership was funding to find some kind of adequate storage that was available to the nurses and CNAs who often have to get to the iPods after hours. So again, that's just an example of supplies and equipment. Create your measurement tool. Again, it's very, very important that you measure. Now, for those of you in this project, what we've given to you are some tracking tools, and that's one way to help. We're using MDS data to also help us measure. But you may have other processes that you want to measure as part of this. Prepare and present the results. The PIP team is responsible for communicating back the progress to you. Communicate back to your leadership. What progress are you making over time? And the data that we're asking you to submit to us is also data that you could provide to your leadership. Use a problem-solving measurement model, PDSA. We'll go over that in just a minute, and report your results. Again, these worksheets are worksheets that will help you as you go through this process. QAPI Step 11 is about getting to the root of the problem. It's all about a root cause analysis. I think most of you have had some experience in doing a root cause analysis. The worksheets that are available in here to help you are maybe more comprehensive than you've done in the past, but they're really good worksheets, and I will spend just a minute going through those in just a minute. But it's the whole idea is for you to sit down and say, okay, when we have a resident who is having behaviors that are harmful to themselves, interrupts care, may be harmful to other residents and or staff. What is it that we currently do, and is what we currently do adequate? And for many of us, our history has been, oh, we call the doctor or the nurse practitioner and we get an order for some kind of a drug. Now we have found out that maybe that shouldn't be our number one way to manage this problem, because we are finding out more that for many of our older residents, particularly those with dementia, that the evidence is showing that these drugs are harmful. So what else do we have to do? Well, music and memory is one of those interventions that may work. And we do it as a QAPI intervention because it allows us to evaluate in a systematic way whether it works or it doesn't work. Which residents does it work for? What times of the day are best? All of those things are part of that process of doing this. But we have to get down to the root causes of the problem as we're going through the process. So the current process analysis, again, allows us to say, okay, how are we doing it now? What's working, what's not working, and why is it not working? An example of why it might not work, anything, caring for these older adults who are confused and maybe combative. You may not have enough staff to sit with them to help them be quiet. To help them with something, help them focus on something that's more comfortable. You may not have a quiet room. There may be too much noise in the environment. So those are the things that you can identify so that you can figure out what might be helpful to you. And again, music and memory is one intervention that can be helpful, but it's not going to work for every single resident. So you've got to think about what other resources you have, what other things might be contributing to the problem. I've certainly seen situations in my practice where just being next to another individual who's confused can make the problem worse. So root cause analysis is really important. And again, that root cause analysis is for music and memory is one thing, but you want to go through that process for all of the things. Pressure ulcers, urinary incontinence, whatever other issues that you're trying to deal with. And then the last step is really the biggest step. It's about, okay, now you've identified the problem, you've prioritized all the things, you've figured out what were the causes, now what are you going to do about it? So even though it's the last step, it's a pretty comprehensive step. So this talks about the importance of taking systems-wide action to complete the QAPI project. Many people will say, wow, this is so much work to accomplish X, to reduce antipsychotic use by 10 or 15%, whatever it is. And we can usually make improvements to a certain point and then we stall. And the reason why we stall often is because we didn't really do systematic change. The other thing that happens because we didn't do systematic change is we improve for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even 9 months, and at the end of 9 months we see ourselves starting to go backwards, either because we stopped measuring, but usually because we didn't make systematic changes. So this is a very important part of what you do in order to sustain the improvements. We'll know more as we continue to analyze our data, but we've already seen some nursing homes that made some improvements and now are kind of stuck and perhaps even starting to go backwards. So it's important to do this particular step. So let's just go through some of the worksheets. We looked at 11 already. This one is about prioritizing opportunities and chartering the PIPs. And again, it's a very formal process to charter a PIP, But like the systematic change piece of it, it's an important part. It makes sure that there's no misunderstanding. Things are written down in writing. And so this is really, really helpful for you to do this. You can go through these worksheets. We've given you lots of examples about various things. So this one is the guidelines for the PIPs. The steering committee wants to lay out guidelines for how they want the PIP to work. So in this one, step A is describe the overall plan for conducting PIPs to improve care services and why improving dementia was chosen as a PIP. And again, the improving dementia is just an example. It could be pressure ulcers or anything else you want. Of course, our project is focused on improving dementia through music and memory. So that's why we use these examples, and we hope that you are using our tools for your project. An example is resident assessments and care plans have been incomplete, not done, or not timely, particularly for residents with behavioral or psychiatric symptoms. So that could be the problem that we've had in the past, right? Describe criteria for prioritizing selecting. Well, it's an important, because this project has come about, it's an opportunity, and prioritized it because it was available. Indicate how and when PIP charters will be developed. And again, it talks about we're going to do this charter. It's going to be available by April 1st. Obviously, that was a while back, but you submit the date, you put the date in that you want to put in. And that's the way all of these worksheets work. I'm going to skip down now to the ones related to PDSA and goal setting. This is the goal setting worksheet. So your PIP team then works on this worksheet, setting up SMART objectives. So this is SMART objectives are measurable. They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable. That means that you didn't set the goals so high that no one would be able to accomplish it. They're relevant, right, to what you're doing, and time-bound, which means that you are setting a timeline. You're not just saying we're going to do this forever and we're never going to regroup and rethink about what we're doing. You're saying we're going to intervene, we're going to do this intervention for 2 months, 3 months. We're going to see how we're doing, look at our measurement. Some things that you do, you only need to measure 2 to 3 weeks, and you can already look to see whether you're starting to make a change or improve. So this worksheet, planning and conducting PIPs, have to do with what information the PIPs need. And again, if you look at our examples, it gives you the idea about what would make this plan a strong plan. And you can copy and paste, or again, use your own information. I'm going to go down to the PDSA cycle because I want you to take a look at that. So this is the PDSA cycle template. This worksheet is available from CMS. You can download that as well from CMS, and or you can just use it here. So this has to do with the Plan, Do, Study, Act, or PDSA tool. And what we're trying to have you do here is answer these 3 questions. And this is a model for improvement. It's been well reviewed, researched, and documented that this is a very effective way to go about process improvement. So the first thing is, what is your aim? What are we trying to accomplish? State your aim, and reviewing your PIP charter, and include your bold aim that will improve resident health outcomes or quality of care, and quality of care. So an example of that might be improve dementia care with a specific aim of improving completion of the resident assessment and care plans. So that's one very specific aim that you're going to start out with. The next one is, how will we know that change is an improvement? through a measurement, right? So resident assessments and care plans will be completed within 72 hours of admission and within 24 hours of a change of condition. So if we measure those things and we track those things, we will know right away that we are improving or we're not improving by auditing whether or not we're following our improvement plan. And then the third question is, what change can we make that will result in an improvement? And here there's all kinds of things to help you with this. It might be a new algorithm, a new intervention. Again, we're using music and memory. We're using it as an intervention. But there are many pieces that go into making the program successful. It might be that we have done a number of workarounds in the past that we're not really measuring what we said we were going to measure, or we're not doing what we said we were going to do. We said that we were going to put, expose Mrs. Jones to music and memory, right at after lunch, because that was the time that we identified that she was more agitated, but we have not been doing it. So these are all this process that helps you to learn what's working, what's not working, what can you do instead. And these worksheets, again, will help you with that process. Here's probably something that people look at, the Plan, Do, Study, Act. What are we going to do? When and how did we do it? Because you're documenting it afterwards. What were the results, and what changes are we going to make based on what the findings were? So what that tells you is that Plan, Do, Study, Act is always iterative. And you will go through these processes and you will improve. You'll say that we got this far, but we need to get further, so you're going to work on it some more, refine it some more. So it's a very iterative process. And as you look back here, I'm going to skip down to this. This is your root cause analysis, a fishbone diagram, and again, most of you are familiar with that. We've given you one that's you can fill out there. And then skipping right down here towards more towards the end, I want to show you this idea of an iterative process. This is about how things will go when you start to work on something. The resident assessment and care plans are incomplete, so you do something to improve that. Then you recognize that checklist to assist the nurses in completion. You got that part done, so that piece of that is done. But now you have to expand that test of change to make sure that you you expand it to different units, or you expand it to more shifts. And you do that whole process because your goal is that 90% of all residents receive comprehensive assessment and care plans completed within 72 hours of admission, or whatever your goal is. This is just an example. But you can see that you just don't do one intervention and stop. You do one intervention, you measure how that went. You might adopt that intervention and spread it out. You may say, well, part of it worked, but the other part didn't work. So you adapt the intervention and then you test it again. Or you may say, wow, it didn't work at all. So then you abandon it and you start over and come up with another plan. And what you eventually see is that you end up with this sort of bundle of different process improvements that you do. One may be around leadership, and we've given you some examples for that. One may be around better managing the equipment. What about training and activities? Are you really training everybody in your nursing home about the benefits of music and memory? And resident assessments and care plans, and then ongoing monitoring. So you can see that by the time that you have done this, you've got a relatively comprehensive process improvement, performance improvement project that you can document, and it will also help you with your ongoing sustainability of the program. So it's always takes longer than we think to do these things or to even talk about, but we wanted to give you a little bit more comprehensive view of Module 2. I think at our next webinar, we're going to spend more time on Module 3. Again, the same process with a different content piece. Any questions on what we've gone over? I know it was quick. If you have any questions, you can put them into the chat bar. Are we seeing any questions, Amanda?
I don't see that we have any questions.
Okay, we have a number of office hours and technical assistance webinars that are coming up. Kristen Bettega, who's the project manager for Music in Memory, will be sending you emails on these. We really encourage you to come to those. We can help you specifically with the issue that you're having challenges with. And we want you to know that we're here to support you. You can also email us on most of you, I think everybody's got Kristen's email, or you've got the HS Music Mem email address. So please let us know if you have questions. We're happy to answer them. And look out for the email that comes from Kristen letting you know of what future webinars that we're going to have that'll be more personalized and where you can just ask a question and we will answer your question.
Dr. Recursion, we do have a question. I don't know if you want to answer it now or offline.
No, I'll answer it now.
Okay. This is from Sharon, and Sharon says, what do you do with all the turnovers in staff? Constant education over and over?
Yeah, Sharon, you are it is a big problem. In fact, it's probably the number one issue that we gets reported to us in terms of challenges is turnover. I would suggest that you do some memorializing of your education. So maybe more of a workbook that you develop, PowerPoint slides that people can go through. Periodically, some nursing homes decide that they're just going to do something once a month, so everybody new that comes in. Incorporate these kinds of activities into your orientation process. I'm sure they're already jammed full of important things, but since QAPI is going to be ongoing for you, it's a good opportunity to orient people when they join in to the organization. That way you should be capturing everybody, since everyone has to go through some kind of orientation. Taping things and letting people listen to them after is another way. I hope those are helpful. Any other questions?
I don't see that we have any additional questions.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. Look for that email, those emails from Kristen, and we hope that you're going to join us in one of our technical assistance or office hour times that we have scheduled.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.